A drone strike has damaged a pumping station inside Russia's oil export network, and state pipeline operator Transneft has reduced crude intake as a result. The company confirmed the facility was hit and said upstream volumes entering the system were lowered to stabilize operations. Oil exports have not stopped, but the amount of crude entering this export corridor dropped after the strike. In practical terms, one physical node inside a major energy artery was disrupted, and the flow feeding that artery had to be slowed. Pumping stations are critical pressure control points. They do not store oil. They maintain flow velocity across long-distance pipelines that stretch hundreds, sometimes thousands of kilometers. If one station is damaged, operators reduce intake upstream to prevent pressure imbalance, metal fatigue, or secondary rupture. Lower intake protects the line, but it immediately alters throughput capacity. The corridor continues operating, yet with reduced inflow and tighter mechanical tolerance. This particular corridor links into export-bound routes. When intake is reduced at the front end, storage tanks fill more slowly. Blending facilities adjust batch timing, and export terminals receive lower arrival volumes within scheduled loading windows. The operational change is logistical, not symbolic. Timing margins narrow, buffer capacity shrinks, coordination complexity increases. Export terminals function on precision scheduling. Tankers are assigned loading slots based on projected pipeline arrival rates. If those rates decline, even temporarily, terminals may need to compress loading cycles, resequence vessels, or extend berth occupancy times. None of this means exports collapse overnight. It means the corridor operates with less elasticity. When elasticity declines, cost sensitivity rises. Freight markets are often the first to reflect that sensitivity. If tanker waiting times increase because volumes arrive unpredictably, shipping companies factor congestion risk into charter pricing. Spot freight rates may edge upward as operators hedge against scheduling disruption. Even without confirmed long-term supply loss, perceived reliability shifts influence how vessels are allocated across global routes. Insurance is another layer. Infrastructure that demonstrates exposure to drone reach can be reassessed in risk models. Insurers examine frequency probability, proximity to conflict zones, and asset vulnerability. Premium adjustments do not require sustained damage-only demonstrated access. When insurance costs rise, operating expenses along that corridor increase. That cost is embedded into every barrel moving through the system. There's also a state-level response. Damaged energy infrastructure triggers reinforcement. Additional air defense deployments, radar coverage expansion, patrol rotations, and hardening of facilities require funding and logistical coordination. Oil export revenue supports federal fiscal planning. If infrastructure protection spending increases, budget allocation shifts accordingly. The strike therefore links mechanical damage to fiscal pressure. Markets ultimately monitor recurrence. A single intake reduction registers as disruption. Multiple intake reductions affecting separate nodes would signal structural exposure across the corridor. If that pattern develops, traders may widen short-term crude spreads. Refiners may diversify sourcing contracts, and counterparties may incorporate reliability clauses into long-term agreements. The corridor's risk profile would shift from stable to conditional. At this stage, no sustained shutdown has been confirmed. Repairs may restore full intake quickly, and export levels could normalize once mechanical stability is secured. What has physically changed is clear. A pumping station inside a major oil export corridor was struck. Intake was reduced to protect the system, and scheduling margins tightened across the chain. For viewers, this means a localized drone strike translated directly into logistical tightening, freight sensitivity, insurance reassessment, and higher protection spending inside a global energy artery. The key indicator to watch now is recurrence. If further strikes force repeated intake reductions, Export reliability and the costs attached to it will adjust accordingly. Full coverage continues on International News Network.